Welcome back to another exciting trip around the crypto canaverse. Today, for our 113th episode, we'll be learning about the world of Web3 gaming. We'll explore companies pioneering blockchain technology integration into the gaming ecosystem, creating a Web3 bridge for all gamers. Additionally, we'll discuss a company that collaborates with Web3 gaming companies to enhance user retention. Stay tuned for insights, innovation, and inspiration. But before we get started, we're going to have Alan present our Bible verse today.
Hi, thank you so much, everyone, for joining another week of Crypto Counterverse Show. Today's Bible verse, Jamie wanted us to choose a verse that's something about courage and something about momentum. So Crystal and I came up with a verse, and it comes from Deuteronomy 31:6, and it says, "Be strong and courageous, and do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." In Deuteronomy 31:6, this is a story about Moses is addressing the Israelites as they prepare to enter the promised land. One, be strong, courageous. Moses encourages the people to have inner strength and bravery. Facing challenges requires courage and determination. Number two, do not be afraid or terrified because of them. Moses acknowledges that there will be adversaries and obstacles. However, he urges the Israelites not to fear their enemies or the difficulties ahead. Number three, for the Lord your God goes with you. The assurance lies in the presence of God. He accompanies them on their journey, providing guidance, protection, and support. And number four, he will never leave you nor forsake you. Moses emphasizes God's unwavering commitment, even in adversity, and remains faithful and will not abandon his people. So, Jamie, I'd like to ask you, since you wanted something that's regards to courage and momentum, like why did you want us to choose a verse that is related to courage and momentum?
Yeah, good question. We've got a bit of story behind this as well. So we're still a very, very kind of young, early business. We didn't really start building the product, at least, until the beginning of this year. And as we were navigating through, obviously, raising capital for the business, we came across ultimately what was a scam that nearly crippled us right from the very beginning, which was an opportunity that for us to, as we were told, to raise 2 million. But 2 months down the line and further investment in the business to be able to make sure that could happen resulted in us nearly losing not only just our working capital, but money on top of that as well to be able to make this deal happen, which luckily is almost something out of a movie. At the point of pressing the button, we knew there was something wrong, and we kind of cancelled what we were about to do. But that had a big knock to not just myself, but the rest of our co-founders. It was a bit shocking, I guess, to be almost scammed so obviously face to face with someone over a 2-month period. But after a couple of weeks of, let's say, licking our wounds, we were then able to kind of stand back up again and think, right, okay, this is what we're building is what is needed. The timing is right, and ultimately the people we're trying to serve, which is a gamer, they really need this, and they will need this at least within the next 24 months. So it was kind of a case of us needing to look in the mirror and really just kind of go to the depths of I guess what we're doing and understand that we're actually on the right path and we're gonna hit hurdles. That was a big hurdle, and it was a hard one, but we're able to kind of get through that, and that gives us momentum to go into the next hurdle and overcome that. So this is why it's quite poignant and relevant to kind of where we're at right now.
Thank you for sharing, James. So it sounds like you knew that you believed in what you guys are doing, and you know you were heading in the right path. You stuck with it, you stayed faithful, and just develop courage and continue the momentum to move forward.
100%.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen, so much for presenting that Bible verse. I just want to say that we are blessed. We have had 15,000 views, 120 attendees in the last 3 weeks. And I just want to say thank you to God and to everyone else out there. It's the power of the community. We on this show have, we request that the people do attend, link up their social media accounts so that we can spread the word and educate each other's communities about what we're doing. So really a big thank you to our community members. And I would also like to mention that the Crypto Canaverse show is putting on a international pitch contest for females in the blockchain Web3 community. If you are a female and you are looking for funds and you would like to come and pitch, please reach out to Crystal Wampler and Alan Lau on LinkedIn or at info@cryptocanaverse.com. I would like to bring and present our guest co-host, Jordan Connett, the head of institutional strategies at Global Stake, who is responsible for driving growth in the Web3 and cryptocurrency industries through infrastructure and staking. Welcome back, Jordan.
Hello, thanks for having me. Great to see many of you again. Quick high-level overview again. Global Stake is an institutional staking firm. We partner in a non-custodial way, so pretty much any of your custodians that you all utilize to work with, we partner with them as well. Our big key differentiator is it's all bare metal that we physically own and manage ourselves in Tier 4, Tier 5 data centers. All of our competitors pretty much either rent if they do use bare metal or they use hyperscalers like AWS. Reason why we believe having bare metal matters is it allows us to twist some knobs and dials, get some more MEV out for some of those ETH rewards, but also jurisdictionally, some countries say, hey, we want to prove to our regulators our stake is here. Much easier to do when I can point to the physical data center. So that's us in a nutshell. We're also SOC compliant, excited to be here. Looking forward to learning more about our guests today.
Thank you, Jordan. I know that you guys have recently, you're approaching 1 billion of assets under management. Have you reached that goal yet?
We're close. We're excited. We have some major partnerships to announce here within the next probably about 45 days, and that'll definitely get us over.
Nice. And then can you talk a little bit about Silvermine Capital and what kind of deals you guys are looking for?
Yes, so the co-founders of Global Stake also own a venture capital fund called Silvermine Capital. Silvermine's been around for about 25 years. They are currently specializing in Web3 only for their investments, and they've niched down even further lately to say anything that's infrastructure related, hence Global Stake, or anything that is in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So they're really excited about Bitcoin layer 2s and just anything that's happening in the Bitcoin ecosystem space. So if you know of anyone that's building something exciting, I'd happily make an introduction for you.
Thank you, Jordan. And then last question is, can you tell everyone a little bit about your live stream and how they can apply to be on it?
But just my life's journey in general. Did I hear that right?
No, your live stream.
Oh, my live stream. Like
your
decentralized?
Yes.
Yeah, decentralized.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, so Decentraland, it's a podcast that we host directly from Global Stake. But what I love about it is we never actually really talk about Global Stake on the call. We love to highlight protocols, institutions, or really anybody doing anything exciting in Web3 and just get them to talk about themselves for a solid 20 to 25 minutes. We would then distribute it on LinkedIn and X, and then we email it to all of our customers. And then even more excitingly, all the fund admins that we're partnered with emails it to all of their institutional clients. So there's about 2,500 people that will receive each podcast episode. So would love to host anybody that is doing something exciting in Web3.
Thank you. Thank you, Jordan, again for being here. How can our audience reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm one of those weird old traditional finance people that loves LinkedIn still. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I definitely live on there, but I do use Telegram. It's just my name at Jordan Connect. Feel free to reach out to me there or our website, globalstake.io.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is our company highlight section. He is Steve Wood, the co-founder of Earnscape. Steve is a former Olympic level swimmer turned underwater hockey player who discovered from a teammate in 2011 who was part of the FBI's Silk Road investigation. He has followed spaces closely since then and worked with many actors in the space, including helping the Republic of Liberland launch its national L1 and foster international relationships. He has a BA and MA in political science. He worked in DC in 2009 doing policy research, crafting legislation, fundraising, and building tech systems for these purposes before moving into tech startups in 2014. Since then, he has authored 2 books and founded 3 startups while working with 4 other startups in other capacities. Let's welcome Steve Wood.
Hi there. Thanks for the introduction.
You are most welcome. Steve, tell everyone a little bit about your current underwater athletics.
Underwater hockey is a pretty obscure sport. Whenever I mention it, I almost always get blank stares. Yeah, so underwater hockey is, personally, I think it's fun. It was a good transition from swimming. And basically, you have a weighted puck. It's about the size of a hockey puck. Sits on the bottom of the pool. You get snorkels and a mask and fins and a stick. And you just hold your breath and swim around under the water and try to score goals. It's a very violent, very three-dimensional sport. I get injured almost every time I play. I got severely injured at Nationals last weekend and had to sit out the last game. A lot of our team actually got pretty injured. We were down 50% by the time our last match rolled around. So it's really fun now, but if you are not really good at holding your breath and you don't really like getting injured, which who does, it can be pretty rough to adapt to, but I really recommend it. Yeah, so that's underwater hockey.
That is
do
so
you have
cool.
to kind of change the old joke where it's like I went to the pool and the hockey game broke out?
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. Every time I go to the pool, a hockey game breaks out.
I'm just imagining it now in slow motion. It's like hockey in slow motion because it's underwater, right?
Oh, it's not slow motion. No, like
No.
if you go to Atlantis Sports YouTube page, you can see the live streams from the Nationals competition this last weekend, and it's not slow. Like sometimes it can
Well, if
be
you're getting injured, obviously
slow.
not.
Like when everybody runs out of breath and at the same time, and everybody goes to the surface, it'll be a little boring for a little bit, but it's really fast and things happen pretty quick.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I watched the episode that you sent me and I was like, whoa, everything happened so quickly and it's very violent. It's almost like a bunch of piranhas going after a little fish. I was just like, whoa. So very cool. You should drop the link in the chat whenever we get finished. But, we mentioned that you heard from a friend about Bitcoin, and he was working with the FBI Silk Road investigation, which is very close to Bitcoiners' hearts. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so most people probably heard of the Silk Road, the original use case for Bitcoin, which is kind of why today so many, and even up to this day, so many people just say Bitcoin is for criminals. Bitcoin has so many viable use cases, but unfortunately, one of the biggest original use cases was an illegal drug marketplace online. And that was something that a lot of people knew about, and many people heard of the Silk Road. And I'd known of the Silk Road before my friend told me about the investigation. He was one of my underwater hockey teammates, actually, so it's a really interesting connection there. But yeah, so that that was how I encountered Bitcoin for the first time in 2011. I knew Silk Road was going to go down at some point here, but everybody around me was buying up Bitcoin because we could see the use case and the viability for it at a pretty early stage, and we just knew at some point it would get around the whole illegal drugs thing and become more mainstream, which is what we're seeing now.
Thank you for elaborating on that. Tell us a little bit about Earnscape, the current company that you're working on, and the problems that it solves.
Sure. So I actually ended up doing Earnscape as a result of multiple market pivots. I was originally creating a whole gaming ecosystem and a network of interconnected games that used assets from each game to improve the viability and the fun factor of each other game. I really like the concept, and I still want to get back to that at some point. But as we were fleshing things out, starting to build and communicating with other actors in the market, we realized that one of the more interesting aspects of what we were building was how we were handling the incentivization structure for getting people to continue playing. And over the course of several pivots, that ended up turning into what we now have as Earnscape, which is a game launcher that uses incentivization structures, mostly Web3 based incentivizations, in order to keep people playing mobile games that need players. And we've really found that our niche here is multiplayer games because they generally lack what we like to call player liquidity. Player liquidity just means there's always people there playing. And nobody wants to play a multiplayer game that's empty. You know, if you ever log into an MMO or something where it's an empty world, you might as well be playing a single player game. And if you are playing a match-based game and you hit start and you're waiting there, waiting, eventually you're going to get bored and you're going to cancel your match and you're going to leave and you're going to go somewhere else and you're never going to play again. We get rid of that for all these games and do that by making sure that every game that is in our ecosystem has someone playing it, or at least a lot of people, as many as we can send you based on the players that we have using our system and the various attributes of them, so that we target the games that are most appropriate to them to those players, so that they can always have an online player base. The games don't die, they don't wither away, and they continue to grow their user KPIs, because you got to have that initial hump in order. You got to get over that initial hump in order to grow. So we solve that chicken and egg problem for a lot of new games. And considering there's over 10,000 new mobile games that come out every month, it's a kind of a big problem. Mobile gamers are pretty fickle and they have very, very, very abundant choices to choose from. So if they don't like your game or there's any of these problems, they're going to immediately dump it and go on to the next one. And this is also a major problem with Web3 games, which also have the additional problem of having to deal with the fact that a lot of players out there are not Web3 gamers. You know, there's a pretty sizable group of players who are Web3, right? But that's actually a small percentage of the total global gamer base, even on mobile. So through our system, we're able to facilitate all of these Web3 integrations for these games as well. They're still on, some of those are still under development, but once we get it all done, there will be basically no friction points between a Web2 user and a Web3 game of the type that have a habit of turning people off, in addition to being the sort of thing that allows these games to thrive because they also always have an online player base.
Very cool.
Yeah, I have a quick question here, and please forgive me on my ignorance, but my understanding is there's three buckets. You have PC gaming, you have console gaming, and then you have mobile gaming. So are you guys only supporting mobile gaming? And if so, why is one question I have. And then the second is, with Web3 gaming in its infancy now, and as it's starting to grow and explode, do you think the true adoption for Web3 gaming at first is going to come just from mobile, mainly because they're not going to know that they're interacting with Web3? And then will that ever actually enter the console market?
I really couldn't tell you much about how successful Web3 will be on the console market, because it does create a whole bunch of additional hurdles and hoops and variables that we haven't really figured out how to solve yet. How do you put a wallet on a console? At some point, someone's going to figure that out. Maybe me, maybe us. I don't know. But we'll address that problem when we get to it. But as for right now, yes, we are primarily focused entirely on mobile. Desktop is a pretty saturated market. Since we use a game launcher, we would have to compete with something like Steam or the Epic Games Store, all these other like super launchers out there. That's a massive nut to crack. I'm not about to try and take on the Google of gaming when I'm just a fledgling startup at this point. The mobile market is much more fractured. There's actually not too many offerings out there as far as what we're doing for mobile. They exist, but they have very limited reach. And by using blockchain technology, we're able to expand the reach. Most of the existing game launchers for mobile can really only service the first world, specifically the Americas and a little bit of Europe, depending on the exact form of integrations that they take. But the way that we do it with how we're facilitating blockchain-based incentives, we can reach the entire world. And that opens up a huge player base that otherwise wouldn't be able to be tapped. And it also means that our service is a lot more valuable because we're able to offer players in time zones that other places wouldn't even be able to offer. So that's most of the answer to the questions you asked. And then as far as expanding to like other things, yeah, eventually we do intend to go to these other platforms, but we got to seal the deal with mobile first. And, you know, that start small and then grow, right? You know, Facebook didn't originally service everybody, for example. It started with just Harvard and then expanded to colleges and then expanded to new recent graduates and then everybody. So eventually we'll, you know, follow a similar cycle of growth. And there's a lot of adjacent markets we can expand into there. I think I got everything. I feel like there was one detail that you asked about that I didn't touch on.
No, I think in general I answered all my questions. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Looks like there's a hand raised. Amanda?
I did have a question. So the player finds your app, right, for this launcher. How does it work? What's the onboarding process for them? They log in, they sign up, they search for game.
So for a player, it's extremely straightforward. You just download the app and open it up. You create an account. We don't even really ask you to create an account. We just say log in. You can log in with your email address, your phone number in certain countries, and like a Google login. We use OAuth for Google, and our iOS version will also have OAuth for Apple. So you just log right in, and it just works. There's no like account setup or anything. Once you do that, the app sees all the games on your device, and we use that information to determine what sort of games you're interested in, and then we serve you the games that we think are going to be most relevant to you from our portfolio. You can use our system to launch any game, and that's one of the reasons that we've been able to grow 100% word of mouth as far as our user base is concerned, because gamers can earn incentives and rewards for playing literally anything out there. And then we found that over time, the strategy that we have works of just accumulating people through offering service to literally every game out there. Eventually, they also end up playing our featured games. And our featured games are the ones that we have relationships with. They're the businesses and the game studios that need players. They just register their games with us. It's about a 30-second process. All they do is give us the name of the game, the link to download the game, and hit OK. I go into the admin portal, hit a button, and launch it. And then now it's available for our gamers to play with increased incentives. And our incentive structures work. About 80 to 85% of all gaming sessions are our featured games.
And you have that promise of like a low queue or small wait time. So does that mean that you already have a lot of people? And what happens if there are not a lot of people playing that game? Do you drop it, or is it always just available?
Well, define a lot. Just before we jumped on here, I checked our numbers, and we just registered our 7,791st user. So there you go. That's our current user numbers for our mobile app, and about a third of those are generally online playing games at any given day or so. Well, less than that per day, but it varies from week to week. There's always hills and valleys. So yeah, we always have some people playing, and I have charts and data that show when our most popular times are. Our most popular time right now is generally about 6 a.m. UTC time, but it waves depending on who happens to be online at any given time. We are a relatively young service, so at this point, we don't guarantee certain numbers of users at certain times, but as our user base does grow, we will be able to offer that function as well. Because, we still don't even have 10,000 users yet, but we have been able to prove our concept. We are post-revenue. We do have paying customers, and there are several businesses that we've talked to that said that this actually worked great. One of our clients said that we looked at their data before they became a client. Their numbers were kind of, I don't want to say in free fall, but they were declining. And as soon as they signed up to be one of our clients, that trend reversed. Everything started going back up, and they started growing their user base and started making more money from everything they were doing. So that was massively beneficial for them, and I don't see any reason why other games wouldn't have the same experience. Obviously, it varies from game to game. If your game absolutely sucks, then, and we have had a couple of those, nobody plays it. We can't force people to play these games. But yeah, so there have been some games that just absolutely sucked. But we try to filter those out so that we keep higher quality games.
Last
Steve,
question.
I've got a question as well. Sorry, I'll go next. Sorry, next.
Is it similar to Epic and Steam where you have friends list and you can see what those friends are playing as well?
We're working on that. Yeah. So we recently implemented a leaderboard system, and basically it shows you how much you've played every various games and how many points you've earned, so that you can see how you fare, how close you are to winning various competitions within our app amongst your friends. We found that did do what we expected it to do and increased engagement. And we are going to be adding a friends function to that as well. So right now it's just kind of a global list because, again, only 7,791 people. We couldn't really do too much segmentation there, but we are going to be adding a function to check your contacts list and allow you to say, this person's my friend, I know these people, and then just kind of see how you stack up compared to those people as well. Michael.
Okay, I think my question. Okay, sorry. Okay. I'm going to jump in. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just in terms of like the incentivization, so how are you doing that exactly? Are you providing a token and like a wallet that the users are incentivized by, or what's the kind of mechanism there? Just trying to
So
understand.
eventually, it all boils down to cold hard cash. You get money. And who gets what money depends on how much you participate in the system, how many tasks in our system you complete, how much you actually play, what games you actually play, how you actually play them, how well you fare versus your friends and other people who are currently playing. So we do it in a really economical manner compared to a lot of the other like rewards launchers out there that just basically, well, they all have different business models, but yeah, the way ours works is relatively different because it's a very gamified function, and we have no issue with getting people to actually play these games through these incentives. But yeah, it boils down to how much cash are you going to get. And no, we don't use a proprietary token for this. We are going to be launching a token probably sometime in the next 3 to 6 months, and that will not be a rewards token. You can earn it as a reward for playing, but the primary reward is USDC. It's fiat backed, stable coins. Stable compared to the dollar, at least. We can fret about the value of the dollar, but that's neither here nor there. Most people don't particularly worry about that as much as they would worry about, say, the fluctuating value of any given cryptocurrency, because, well, the dollar may be changing value, we shall say. It's not changing value as fast as any given cryptocurrency is. So that's why we went with stables in order to offer the rewards. And yeah, so right now they accumulate in the app and you can withdraw them anywhere on any chain that we support. We are currently in negotiations. So withdrawals are currently paused because we are in negotiations with a funder. I just got the term sheet this morning, so I think that we'll be able to unlock that pause very shortly. The question was, what chains are we going to be able to support? What chains are we allowed legally to support? And I think we're going to be good. So as soon as we finalize this term sheet, probably on Monday, we'll be able to go forward and resume withdrawals. So our users will be happier then.
Nice, cool, good to hear.
Michael.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Couple questions. So coming from two different standpoints, but it all kind of goes in the same thing. When studios, like, as someone who's raised funds, you're always looking for the KPI. You said time-based rewards in addition to a lot of other things. How do you see the growth with KPI, retention, the big metrics, D1, D7, after they become, I guess, like a featured app? And then the second part of the equation on the long term, which I think is like a crisis within just Web3 gaming in general, is beyond just regular retention, is conversion. And do you have any way to be able to see if you said you can use any game? So do you see this as a way to convert Web2 mobile players into Web3 with this the USDC rewards? So it's like the two things, KPIs and conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as conversion, that is one of our primary goals, is to make sure that we have an avenue for people who don't particularly care about or may even actively dislike Web3 to participate in Web3 ecosystems and play Web3 games without having to do any of the research or put together any of the infrastructure, create wallets, do any of this stuff that is a various friction point or an impediment or a hurdle that stops people at some point or another. We don't want people to even think about the fact that they're playing a Web3 game. Personally, that's my belief, is that for Web3 gaming to thrive, people have to not even think about it being a Web3 game. Like, look at Helldivers. Do you think of, when you log into Helldivers, do you think about the fact that you're logging into an online, always online game? Probably not. You just think you're logging into a game, and it just works because all of the infrastructure is set up in the background. So long as you have an active internet connection, it works. Web3 gaming needs to be like that, and using Earnscape as a launcher app for this will allow us to facilitate that sort of ecosystem growth by removing all those friction points that the internet and Web2 have done for people who are just basically an offline gamer. So now, yeah, people who generally only play offline games, play online games all the time, don't even think about it. And we're trying to create that next step as well for Web3 gaming. And sorry, I forgot retention and KPIs. Yeah, so we do offer a lot of these. We have a game studio portal that you can log into if you're one of our clients and see all of the retention metrics that we've given you. We have all of the data on our back end. We're still kind of fleshing out the game studio portal. We did only launch our mobile app in January, so all of our growth has been just over the past mid-January. So it's been about 5-ish, 6 months since we got this thing started. And we only onboarded our first customers, paying customers, we onboarded them in March and they started paying in April because we had free trials. So that we haven't had this service online very long. We've been developing it really fast and pivoting and implementing various functions every time we get feedback from both our users community and our customers community as to what they need, what they want to see, what would help them better. And we've been trying to knock everything out. But we are collecting all the data. It's just a question of whether it's all presented. We can show you how many people held on to your game, how many people uninstalled, how many people reinstalled. And one thing that I've actually found interesting is there seems to be this trend that never really struck me before, is people will download a game and they'll play it, and then they'll uninstall it, and then they'll get a different game and play that, and then they'll uninstall that, and then they'll get the other game that they started with. They'll re-download that and play it again. So I'm starting to realize that there's some flaws in the retention metrics that we normally see, like published by a lot of the app stores and stuff, because someone will uninstall your game and then reinstall it the next day and play it some more and then uninstall it again. That's something that had never really occurred to me before I started doing this, and I started looking at all these user data. I was like, how are we driving this many installs for some of these games? And it's because people keep uninstalling and reinstalling the same game. And this is actually a pretty big thing. We're uncovering interesting research data from the industry as we do this as well. That wasn't something I'd even previously considered. But yeah, we have all this data and we can show it to you.
They could be hot swapping games because they're running out of storage. I've done that a lot in the past when I had like an older phone, or maybe like if you're in like an area where don't have 5 bagillion gigabytes of storage on your phone.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. Some of our client games they're like over a gigabyte. Right, they're huge, and like at least for a mobile game. And some of these people, if you have a 16 gigabyte ROM device, and you've got other stuff on it, that's going to take up a huge amount of space on your phone, and that kind of cuts out a whole huge swath of the world if you can't facilitate that. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that people are hot swapping games like that, but I don't think that's accounted for in a lot of the statistical data that we see published about the gaming industry.
Thank you, Steve. We have one last question from Jordan, and then we will be moving on to our next speaker.
Yeah, easy question. Are you guys raising funds right now?
Yes, clearly. We just got a term sheet from one investor. I don't know since it's not signed yet, I'm not going to say the name, but it might even be in my inbox now with their signature. So I will have to check that. But yes, we are raising funds. We're doing both. We're doing a hybrid equity and token round. So we have an equity-based company in Delaware, and we are setting up a token raise as well, because I do have I really like my idea for the token. It's like basically an experience point that you can invest in a perk system and improve various functions of your account. But it may change as we continue to develop it, because I'm open to pivots. We've got to respond to market forces, right? But yes, we are definitely raising, and we have secured, I would call them a lead investor at this point, just like in the past 24 hours. So I'm giving our team a pat on the back for that. So yeah, that's the quick summary. If anyone's interested, we're definitely open to talking.
Thank you. Can you tell our audience where they can reach you at?
Sure. Our website is Earnscape, EARNSCAPE.io. You can find us on Twitter at Earnscape. You can find us on almost any social media, just Earnscape. It was open on almost everything. If you want to email, I don't know how public is this. Should I give out my personal email address? Just if you want to contact us, generally email support@earnscape.io. Someone on our team will see it. And if you came from this show, just mention the show and they'll forward it to me.
Thank you, Steve.
Pics incoming.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Jamie Oliver North is an influential leader in the Web3 gaming sector, currently holding the roles of CEO and co-founder at Coins and Skins. Under his guidance, the company recently achieved a significant milestone by selling 150K of skins in just 15 minutes during their second pre-sale. Before focusing on Web3 gaming, Jamie played a pivotal role at Chills, I hope I pronounced that right, where he spearheaded the creation of fan tokens as a product manager. With over a decade of experience in digital product development, Jamie has collaborated with major firms, including Barclays, Dazen, Nestle. Amidst the pandemic, he also launched Few, a well-being app and platform. Jamie is recognized for his expertise in driving innovation in digital products and utilizing blockchain technology to elevate the gaming experience. solidifying his reputation as a leading figure in Web3 gaming. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Crystal. Hi, guys.
How's it going? Where are you calling in from?
So I'm at the moment I'm in the UK, but I'm typically in between Spain and Malta and Belgium lately. So I'm kind of just continually doing laps of Europe, just
That's
to kind
awesome.
of pop in with certain people. But it's good. It's good fun.
We need to add eight countries now. We've reached 7 countries on the show, but you just added 8. So thank you. Before we talk about coins and skins, tell me, how did you meet your partners, and what about them made you decide to join forces?
Sure. So I'll start with Sunny. So I've known Sunny for about 4.5 years. Randomly, we were both working in a co-working space in Malta. This is when I was initially starting Few, which was, say, a well-being platform. And he just kind of jumped on the idea. Actually, he won't mind me saying this. So he couldn't swim, and we had one of our practitioners was a swimming coach on our platform, and he was like, "Can I use your platform to learn how to swim?" So I was like, "Of course." And then at that point, he gave me feedback and everything else, and we became friends. And that then evolved into, I brought him in to help me kind of run the platform at Chili's, which was the fan token exchange. So we worked side by side together, and then he left to then continue doing the research for coins and skins, and then it just evolved from there. And then Aaron, I've actually known for 10 years. He's our CTO. Years and years ago, a different life, I used to do technology recruitment, and I placed him in a job, I think in like 2012 or something. And fast forward 10 years, we bumped into each other in Barcelona at a Spark conference, which is run by a big infrastructure company, and he recognized my voice, and he came up to me and said, "Are you Jamie North?" I was like, "Yes." He goes, "I'm Aaron Hammond." I was like, "Oh my goodness." And because it was at a crypto event, we just kind of hit it off and kind of properly connected. And a year later, I came to him with this idea of coins and skins, and that we understand that the gaming industry, as it stands, traditional gaming industry is in disarray, you could say, in terms of its growth and what gamers actually now want and what they understand. So when we pitched the idea to him, he was working at Bitpanda Pro at the time. So he was just finishing off, and then he joined us in January to ultimately build the alpha of our product, which is the skins marketplace, which is currently live, and we're now gaining initial traction and feedback from. So it was kind of like the worlds aligned a little bit, you could say, and it's been really, like I say, it's been really great and to be able to build this with friends, but also, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, when we hit like a real iceberg that could really kind of just stop the project in its tracks. I think it helped the fact that we did know each other before to be able to be like, hey, we could have some honest conversations with each other. Like do we believe in this enough to be able to kind of make this happen or not? And thankfully we all do, and we're kind of now leaning on each other just to make sure we get this over the line. So that's
an amazing story. I love how your passion, purpose aligns with friends. That's just amazing. So tell us a little bit more about coins and skins.
Of course. So coins and skins, basically, I'll kind of give a bit of some of the people on this call, Stephen, obviously, as well as a friend of mine, we've got to kind of vouch for some of this. But what we understand so far is that, so you've got obviously this traditional gaming and Web3 gaming. Traditional gaming, that's where all the gamers are. That's where the best gamers are. We can't deny that's where all the money is right now. However, there's some major challenges that have hit that industry, because over the last 5 years alone, there's the cost of acquisition of a gamer, of a user, has shot up by about 400%, where the actual spend of a gamer has gone up by 1%. So it's no longer a sustainable environment. It's no longer a sustainable industry. And that's purely because the gamer has now come to the point where they understand that they're in a one-way model. So like I'm a gamer, you know, I think typically the stats are around $60 a month is being spent by a gamer, but it goes one way. It goes towards ultimately the publisher or the studio, well, the publisher. And okay, it's all very well as a gamer. You know, if I keep paying my subscription or I keep paying, then I get further advancement or my status in the game increases. Great, but what if I I finish that game and I want to go somewhere else? It's not impossible, but it's very, very, very difficult to be able to take what you have gained or what you invested in that game onto a market and for an intrinsic value. Thank God we have Web3 gaming, and you know, it's still very, very, very early. I think we can all appreciate that, but this basically changes that model. So it becomes an open economy. So it means that those $60 that I invest in a game, all those 10 hours a day that I invest into a game, now actually has a value not just that the studio owns, but actually I own as an individual. So it means then I've put in 10 hours a week into a particular game, and I've also maybe invested $20. Maybe now that the value of that hasn't gone up, but those $20 I now will take out of that game and I will sell that to someone on a market, or maybe I will loan that asset so someone else can play that in my absence, and I can make something on that. So we're in this kind of this new world, really, which again I think we're all aware of, or at least I think we are, that we're creating this new layer of this new economy that basically means that the gaming will give everyone an opportunity to earn and give them a sense of freedom, and we are basically we want to be the guys that help facilitate that. So what that means is a step forward, coins and skins. So we are initially going live with a dual-sided gaming asset marketplace. What that means is a lot of our background is running an exchange. So we understand what is required when you run an exchange when it comes to tokens. So that's the coin side. So when all the gaming tokens, you can trade on the gaming on the coin side of our platform, and then you have the gaming assets, which is the skin side, which again is an NFT marketplace. But that is required because what our vision is and what we are building, will be building, is something that is essentially an assistant to a gamer. Because what we will also come to understand is that, okay, these are assets that will have an intrinsic value for a gamer, but a gamer doesn't necessarily want to be a trader. They don't want to be looking at technical analysis. They don't really want to be looking at NFT marketplaces unless maybe there's something new or they're trying to discover a new game. So, but what they really want is to actually engage with the community in a game, and real great gameplay. So what we are utilizing, the reason we're building these two platforms first is because we're creating a widget that will essentially surface gamified decisions to them on potentially a daily basis that relate to the assets they hold. So it basically means that, Crystal, say you're playing, what game did you used to play when you were younger, or now? What's the last game you played?
Oh my goodness, you're gonna laugh. I'm gonna tell my age right now, but I used to play the old arcade games a lot.
Okay. So let's say
Maybe you should use someone else.
Mario Kart. Let's use Mario Kart. Just something that people understand. So I've picked up. I've played Mario Kart I've won a couple of races. I've picked up maybe 50 Mario coins. And then what this app will say, but then I've got bored of it. I've moved on. I've played another game. You know, I haven't obviously uninstalled it, but maybe I have. But the tokens are still in one of my wallets. What the widget will do, we'll look holistically across all of your wallets, and then we'll surface to you a decision to make. So, like, okay, Crystal, we see you've not played Mario Kart for 3 weeks. The value of those tokens has gone up by 15%. Would you like to sell 50% of those tokens? Yes or no? So you can just literally, you're like, yeah, sure, yes, done. So then you've already made a return on potentially that gameplay or that gameplay alone, because you've not invested any fiat or cryptocurrency, but you've invested your time into that it will provide a return on. So what we're really trying to aim to do is provide genuine return on gameplay or return on investment for all gamers, without them having to go onto this there's a wallet for everything at the minute. Without going into their 100 different wallets, some of them have forgotten the seed phrase, et cetera. It's kind of bringing that all into one place that surfaces decisions for them to make, and then they get continued return on investment or gameplay, and that's kind of our bigger goal.
So I have a question. So say I have this money or credits or whatnot built up, and you come to me and it's like, do you want to sell this? Okay, but how do you source the people that are buying, and how does that transaction happen?
Good question. Great question. So obviously we that's why we've got our own marketplaces, to be able to enable this. However, we're also aware that more than 100 messages, more than 100 of the same message going out will have a tanking effect on the price of a token if it's sold at that time. So we have to be very, very strategic on how we do that, and that's why there'll be a select few that messages go out to. So whilst it will be done on your assets, there will also be nuances within that, and that's where we'll have to utilize AI to be able to do that, basically. So it's more a case of data, understanding the markets, and utilizing our platforms. These are the kind of three things that will be super important to make sure that happens.
Thank you for explaining that.
Great
First,
question.
we have Stephen and then Michael.
Yeah, sure. So I wanted to ask, are you you've got external wallet functionality, I assume, so that then the more crypto experienced people can connect their external wallet, but are you also providing a custodial wallet for the users? And if so, are you using a partner for that? Which partner, and which chains is your platform going to be compatible with as well?
Yeah, so we're going to be partnering with Third Web to use their smart wallets, which is super new, and we're just building this out now. So initially, I think when we go live with this, which will be early next year, it will be non-custodial, but there will need to be a centralized ability to this. But right now, it's kind of a super early days. Say for us, initially, we need to. By the end of September is when we'll be launching out the fully fledged coins and skins platform, which will have the ability to trade both tokens and gaming assets. So that's where we're starting. And then because for us, the bigger picture here is we need to create credibility in Web3 first, and then we can then start targeting Web 2.5 studios, because that's where the real gamer is, and that's where the real value is. And we need to then provide and show that value to the traditional gamer, because they need to feel safe and they need to feel that actually this is something legitimate. And we need to leverage what is in Web3 so far, and not kind of fight for a portion of the pie. It's more a case of like, okay, we're all in it together. We need to bring, we've got less than 1% of the gamer. We need to bring the next 10% of the gamer on board first, and then then the snowball effect will happen. The Third Web.
Michael?
Is it my turn? Okay.
Yeah, wait, hold on one second, Michael. Stephen, did that answer all the questions that you had for him?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask also if you're planning to, as well as developing all your infrastructure for people to be able to trade their own tokens and skins and NFTs, which I think is really, really good. It also puts you in a position where you're competing against all the centralized exchanges, the decentralized exchanges, and also all of the NFT marketplaces that have all the market share, and all of the aggregators as well right now that are also trying to be Steam killers, right? They want to be a distribution platform for Steam games, but they also want to have the ability for people to buy tokens and buy NFTs directly inside their platforms. But have you thought about maybe having an aggregation system inside your platform as well, so that then you can take data from elsewhere and then also allow people to make purchases from your platform too?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good question. So one of the things we're not going to do is be the next Steam. We're not going to be a games aggregator in that sense. I think if you look at GameSwift, for example, you've got Portal, these guys are going down that route. We're not going to do that. We're just purely focused on the asset side of trading, but making that seamless and super quick and easy, and also providing. So the reason we've gone down, so we've got a Nex. Essentially, it's like a a gasless trading DEX that we'll be launching. So it's non-custodial and it's easier. But the reason we're doing that is because we're looking at all of the indie studios, and what we've noticed in our own journey so far is that the industry helps companies or projects once they've hit a certain kind of point, once they've kind of like hit the pivot. However, there's a bit before that where people need that leg up. So what we're doing and this is why we're partnering with a lot of the kind of more the indie studios initially, because we would do a free listing on our platform, on our necks, on exchange, to be able to bring eyes in immediately. Because I mean, if you go on even like the tier 2, tier 3 exchanges, they're going to charge you minimum 10 grand plus. And it's like, okay, if people are starting out with their bootstrapping, or they've raised 150K, it's like, okay, can they really afford to spend 30% of that just on listing, which is no guarantee? It's madness. So what we're doing, and one thing I'm not talking about yet, is something that we're creating, utilizing our own native founders NFT collection. We'll create a nucleus of 4,000 followers, essentially, that are interested in gaming projects, but also there'll be a competitive nature to that will mean that they will get the opportunity for drops from our partners if they are successful in sharing the content or creating content about these partners. So it creates this kind of cycle that looks after the studio, it creates awareness for the gamer, and it gives rewards to those that are creating that content about these games or these studios. So we're kind of like these guys in the middle, that we're not competing with GameSwift and Portal, definitely not. We'll never compete with Steam. But what we are essentially going up against is maybe the likes of Magic Eden, but we are small enough and early enough to be able to really get on the side of all the gaming studios and be like, right, actually, what do you need? What do you need to make this quicker and faster? Because we don't want the gamer to come onto our platform. We want them to stay in your game, but if they can use our widget and go bam, 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 okay, I've just bought 15 consumables, or I've just sold some, then that means it's great for the studio, it's great for us, and it's great for the gamer. And that's the only way for us.
Very cool. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. Question here. I've been trying to think like how to put this together correctly. So basically, you've got one feature which is just like your phone, which says like, "Hey, you haven't used this for a while. Do you want to get rid of it?" kind of thing, and it's kind of auto matching, auto trading, whatever. And I'm kind of thinking back to where Steve was talking about people uninstalling and installing and hopping back and forth. One of the things about running an exchange, which you know, is if you want to exit a position and there's liquidity pairs, so I can have ETH BSC, ETH USDT, blah, blah, I can hop in and out. Is there a way? Because I think like within, you know, these enclosed gaming marketplaces, like, yeah, I've got an asset, I can sell it within the internal marketplace, whatever. But if I'm done with a game and I want to easily hop over to another, am I able to like make an offer and accept currency from game A, B, or C as a potential, you know, match? Because I think one of the complexities is, you know, having to do so many hops. Like if I'm done with this one, but I want to dip into this one, I don't want to have to take 5 steps and 50 clicks just to be able to move my funds over. So is that something that's in there for users? Because that would really simplify a lot of stuff.
Do you know what? And there's one point I've not actually mentioned. So, and one of the key things, because we, myself and Aaron, my co-founder, we were just going through. We bought something on OpenSea earlier this week, and it's so painful still. Like if we didn't have any ETH, so then you have to bridge, and you're like, oh my god, like what? Why is it still so difficult? So what we've done and what we're going live with is the ability to purchase and sell ultimately, but the ability to purchase with any asset. So if there is, so let's say in Decimated, they're based on Solana, so everything is in Solana. I don't have any Solana in my wallet. Doesn't matter. You can buy it in ETH, you can buy it in USDT, you can buy it in Dogecoin. It doesn't matter. It just means because Decimated would still receive the Solana required, and we were under the bonnet of our platform. It will be seamlessly done. So this is one of the biggest this is the most off-putting features, I think, about Web3 still, which surprises me that we're still in this phase. But that's one of the first things, like, okay, before we're actually live, I want to be able to buy something with anything I have. I don't want to have to worry about what if I have to bridge something, what chain it's on, etc., etc., etc. And that's what we're taking away.
Yeah, you do that, and I'm mega bullish already. I'll tell you that right now. That solves a lot of problems. So
that's why I'm wearing the bullish hat.
Yeah, good on you, man. I like it.
Alrighty, Jordan.
This is exciting. I love gaming in general, but I am kind of curious in regards to like the actual incentive from the game developers. And maybe you already answered this and I just missed it, but I'm curious, the ones that are making a crap ton of money for microtransactions, what's their incentive to allow you to have a third-party marketplace? I know that if these are tokenized or NFTs, that they could still get a percentage of secondary sales, but there would eventually come a point in time, I would assume, where nobody's going to buy their microtransactions if the secondary market's flooded and they can get them the same stuff for cheaper. So like, how does that like economy of scale not collapse?
Are you talking about Web3 or are you talking about traditional gaming right now?
Let's say, yeah, traditional gaming joins Web3 and then they're still keeping up with microtransactions and they want everything to kind of be harmonized.
Yeah, I mean, I think what will happen is in traditional gaming, there will. I don't think it's going to be a lift and shift. It's not going to happen that way, because again, if you think about traditional gaming, it's dominated by publishers. They're there, and if I'm, I think they are creating a lot of the FUD as well. Because if you remember when Spotify came out and the music labels, they were worried because they thought, okay, there's going to be a direct link between the fan and the artist, and we lose control. The same thing is going to happen, but it's down to everyone in Web3 gaming to actually kind of like create this bridge to them and say, look, we're not here to replace you, but your users, your gamers, they understand the value now in what they have and what they hold, which is the power of actually going to another game or actually giving them the asset they can take and exchange that somewhere. So what I think initially will happen is there'll be like a wrapper. So let's say, for example, let's go to Fortnite. So Fortnite are never going to come to, well, never say never, but the Fortnite as it is never going to come to Web3 in my opinion. However, what may happen is first player shooter games, for example, they may create, and I'm making a big assumption here, but there may be something where there is a wrapper around something like Fortnite that is related to my status in the game. So if I'm a gamer and I've spent maybe 100 plus, or let's say 400 hours playing something like Fortnite, and I'm in the top 1% or top 3% of that game, I don't want to then go and play a new game and start from the beginning again. There should be some value in the fact that I have got this status. And I think that's where a Web2 studio starts dipping into Web3. Let's call it Web 2.5, this kind of bit in the middle, because it's like, okay, let's tokenize your status. And what that does, that becomes an asset that if you can plug that into a game like Decimated, which is Steven's game, and he then his brand then understands, okay, because you've got this NFT or because you hold this asset, we can see you're a gold member or you're a gold Fortnite player. This then gives you immediate access to this layer or this level, or you get this loot box because then you are starting the game much, much higher. So I think that's, look, I don't see mass adoption happening until after 2030. But I think within the next 2 years, there will be. I mean, there's a major avalanche of quality games that will be landing between December and the following December. So I think within that time, heads will be turned. But there is still a long way to go to be able to remove the fear from the traditional gaming studios, the big ones, the Rockstars, the Fortnites of the world, which they're already doing. You know, I think they've already got massive teams that are already like looking into how they can do this. But I think this is where the Web 2.5 will be a real thing, and it already is. And that's where they will start dipping their toes in the ability to be able to tokenize add tokenized value to a gamer. So that will appease the gamer as is, and that means maybe their spend will go up from 1% to maybe 10%. So I think that's the prediction, and that's for us, as I was saying earlier to Stephen, we need to build our reputation in Web3 first. One of our advisors is an exec at Xbox, so he is very, very much in Web2 camp, to the point where he doesn't. Sometimes we have big disagreements about Web3, which is good. So then it's the case of like, okay, finding that sweet spot in Web 2.5, and I think that'll end up being a thing over the next 5 years, in my opinion.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
No worries.
Steve.
All right. So I'm going to preface this with, I've agreed with almost everything you've said. Basically, everything that you've said is something that I've been like thinking about in the back of my head. Like, this is a problem. How are we going to solve this? The industry needs to go in this direction. So yeah, bravo for you for actually taking on almost all of the challenges. It sounds like that at least I personally have identified. I'm sure everybody else here realizes that a lot of these are issues. But one question that did pop up when I was listening to one of your previous responses was, you mentioned being able, and again, another thing that I think really needs to be solved, you need to be able to pay for anything with anything. And that, there's a lot of reasons that hasn't been done, because the infrastructure for that, the logistics for that, to be able to buy an NFT on Ethereum with Dogecoin, from anywhere, that can be pretty difficult. And I was just wondering what sort of, and this may be proprietary, if so, just tell me you're not going to answer or something. But I was wondering, it sounds like you've already got a path to solving that. I was wondering if you could share any sort of insight on how you plan to do that, because that actually is a pretty big problem.
Sure. It's not proprietary, actually, so it's an easy win. So we're integrating a platform called Spark, and they do that utilizing the liquidity from our exchange, basically. So they do all the bridging. It costs a fraction of a percent to be able to enable that. But that's something that we would absorb to get this going, basically. So it's just a plug and play, and they're still very, very young, it's still very early. But I met them on one of the spaces. Twitter Spaces is incredible for stuff like this, especially in gaming, because it's still super small. Yeah, that's something we've signed, and we're integrating as we speak. So I'm happy to put you in touch with them, because they're, again, what is so refreshingly different from being from building let's say a business in the traditional digital world to Web3, is that everyone really is helping each other, and I think there's a genuine understanding is that I'm not going to do this alone. You're not going to do this alone. No one on this call is going to do this, even just with us. We all need to club together to be able to really level up and make this a space for people like even my dad, or my older brother. My brother's native enough, but let's say my auntie, to be able to, she wants to pick up a game, she can get on, and then she can start telling me like, oh yeah, I played this Bitcoin game. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. So it should, we should get to that point hopefully within the next 5 years, and it will be incredible to then see that kind of light bulb moment in people's eyes when they go, so these tokens I've got, I can now sell these as a money. So, yes, this is a return on your gameplay, and this is a return on your investment. So this really changes, it really flips the whole world upside down. And that's where I think there are still so many deniers around Web3 gaming, and I think it's just because they just don't actually understand what is coming. I honestly foresee within the next 5 years we will be seeing people that have businesses inside, like an economy inside a game that is making $1 million a year. It's unbelievable what is coming. So hopefully that answers your question. I went on a tangent, sorry.
No, you did answer the question. I would love that introduction if you're willing to facilitate.
Yeah, of course. Happy to do that. Yeah, that was my point.
But,
so yeah, I'm happy to connect you to them.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Like I fully agree with all of that, and I can't wait to see businesses inside of games making money.
Thank you. Before we close out, can you please touch a little bit about your raise?
Sure. Yeah. So initially we've raised 170K. That was just initially off a few angels and our community. We are now looking to raise. So we're kind of like we're at this awkward stage between pre-seed and seed. Kind of like a bit spotty, a bit pimply still. We're not as beautiful as we will be. So we kind of like essentially kind of early seed stage because now we've got some form of product out there and we're gaining feedback. We're looking to raise $1 million at the minute. That will be a safe raise with token warrant for 10% at the moment, but obviously that is negotiable. And that is to allow us to grow the team, allow us to really build out what I've spoken about. The team will help build the widget, which will need to be cross-chain. It's going to be super complex. And also which I've only just touched on, but the founders NFT collection, which will end up evolving somewhat, which again, I don't want to give too much away just yet, but I will in the future.
And then where can our audience reach you at?
I'd say so I'm on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. So Jamie O North on there. Also LinkedIn, Jamie Oliver North. And you can email me at jamie@coinsandskins.com.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Steve, Jamie, and Jordan for joining us today on the Crypto Canaverse Show. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to influencer Doug Hype for reposting this show. We appreciate all the support that we can get in this industry. And with that being said, we're going to have Alan close out in prayer. And then if you guys wouldn't mind staying on just for 5 more minutes afterwards, that would be fantastic.
Thank you, everyone. Let's bow our head and pray and close in prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for another week of a Crypto Canaverse Show where we can bring on entrepreneurs in the gaming space this week. Thank you for Jamie coming on with CoinSkin, Jordan as a co-host with Global Stake, as well as Steve or Earnscape to build the infrastructure for the gaming platform for GameFi and Play. Just pray for each one of the individuals came on, whether they're raising money or whether they are continuing to build their network and infrastructure. May you provide the partners that is needed to continue their journey. We know that you will always be here for us. You will never forsake us. For us to continue to have faith in you and trust in you in all things that we do. Praying for the weekend that you be with us. And we love you. In Jesus' name, pray. Amen.